Hey everybody, so in this video I'm going to show you how to prove that the derivative of cosine of x is equal to negative sine of x. So we're going to use the limit process, the limit definition of a derivative. So it's going to be the limit as delta x approaches 0 of f of x plus delta x minus f of x over delta x. So we're going to begin by plugging cosine of x because we want to prove that cosine of x is equal to negative sine of x, or the derivative. And we begin by writing this down. So that's going to be cosine of x plus delta x minus cosine of x over delta x. Now, right here, this is a hint that we're using the trigonometric formula of cosine of a plus b is equal to cosine a cosine b minus sine a sine b. So we're going to use that, we're going to apply that over here as well. So it's going to look like this: limit as delta x approaches 0 of cosine of x times cosine of delta x minus sine of x times the sine of delta x, and then we bring the minus cosine of x. It's going to be right here, minus cosine of x. Okay, so now over delta x. So right now we're just going to begin simplifying a little bit. So it's going to look like this: limit as delta x approaches 0. We're going to put this minus cosine with these guys right here. So it's going to look like this: cosine of x times the cosine of delta x, and then bring that minus cosine of x. And then we write everything down here. We have minus sine x times sine of delta x, and all of this is over delta x. So now here we could factor out the cosine of x. Then you would start to simplify even more. So if you factor out the cosine of x, you would have cosine delta x minus 1 over delta x, and then minus sine of x sine delta x over delta x. And then now you see in the beginning of calculus, when using limits, you know that cosine of x minus 1 over x is equal to 0, and then sine of x over x is equal to 1. So you could apply that over here as well. So now if we simplify even more, we get cosine times this right here. Because it's an identity, it's equal to 0. We have the cosine of x times 0. And then we have minus, this would be 1, and then bring back the sine of x, so it'd be sine of x times 1. So it is sine of x, basically. And we have to bring back this, always bring the limit as delta x approaches 0, because we can't just get rid of it. And then now we have cosine of x times 0 is 0 minus sine of x, and 0 minus sine of x is equal to minus sine of x. And there we go. That's the proof that the derivative of cosine of x with respect to x is equal to negative sine of x. If you want, I'm going to zoom out. You could maybe screenshot this, look at the work, and I encourage you to do it on your own as well.